I've been getting lots of stories from people who have seen incredible things. These stories are so amazing and they help many people when I share them here. If you love Jesus and can't wait to see him, you need to get ready for when he comes back. I'm not sharing these stories to make you scared or anything like that. I want to remind you that God who made you still loves you and wants you to be with him forever. Don't feel bad if you hear a story that doesn't match what you believe. Instead, let it remind you that heaven and a bad place are both real. As we hear what our friend from India wants to tell us today, please stay until the end so this story can reach many people who really need to hear it. Today I want to tell you about Lois Fred. She's a young lady from a big city in India called Mumbai. She grew up in a family that followed the Hindu religion. Lois knew all about their religious ways, their special ceremonies, and tried to be a good person. But one scary night, she had an amazing dream that showed her something about when Jesus comes back that she could never forget. What she learned about special oil in lamps and the words an angel told her have an important warning that all of us need to know. Before we keep going, please tell me where you're listening from. It would be great to feel close to you even though we're far apart. Also, don't forget to hit the like button. This will help this video reach lots of people who need to hear this story. Leave a comment too and tell me what you think about this amazing experience. Let's talk about it together so we can all learn from each other here. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. Enjoy listening. Hi, my name is Lois Fred and I'm 28 years old. I never thought I would tell anyone this story. Honestly, it sounds crazy even to me and I'm the one who lived through it. But sometimes the most important truths come in experiences that don't make sense to our thinking minds. I grew up in a traditional Hindu family in Mumbai. My grandma taught me to light special candles during our holiday called Diwali. My mom made sure I knew all our prayers and I did all the religious stuff that most people do. You know how it is. You follow what your family does because that's what everyone expects. I wasn't super religious, but I wasn't fighting against it either. Religion was just there, like furniture in a room that you don't really notice anymore. When I turned 25, I was doing pretty well by most people's standards. I had a great job at a computer company, my own place to live, and what looked like a good future ahead of me. But there was this empty feeling inside me that I couldn't get rid of. Have you ever felt that? Like you're doing all the right things, but nothing feels real or important. Around that time, I started having these scary panic attacks. They would come from nowhere, during work meetings, while I was eating dinner, sometimes even when I was sleeping. My heart would beat really fast, I couldn't breathe right, and I felt like I was going to die. The doctors did lots of tests and gave me medicine, but nothing really helped much. They kept saying it was because I was stressed and needed to relax, but I knew it was something deeper than that. The night it happened was just like any other night, really. I'd had another panic attack earlier that day and I was really tired. I went to bed early, hoping to finally get some good sleep. But instead of peaceful sleep, something completely different happened to me. I remember feeling like I was floating, like my body was getting lighter and lighter until I wasn't in my bedroom anymore. I know how this sounds. Trust me, I know. But I need you to understand that this wasn't just a dream. Dreams feel different. This was more real than anything I'd ever experienced in my life. I found myself in this huge space that seemed to go on forever. There were thousands, maybe millions of people around me, all holding these oil lamps. The weird thing was that some of the lamps were glowing with this beautiful warm light that seemed to come from inside the oil itself, but others were flickering, trying hard to stay lit, and some had already gone out completely. I looked down at my own hands and saw that I was holding a lamp too. Mine was one of the dim ones, barely flickering. I felt this panic rise up in my chest. Not like my usual worry attacks, but something much deeper. A fear that went beyond anything physical. Then I heard this sound. It started quiet, like thunder far away. But it grew into something amazing. It was like music, but not regular music. Voices, but not human voices. It was like the whole universe was singing all at once. And as the sound got louder, I saw them. Angels. I know. But there they were, more beautiful than I could ever describe, moving through the crowd. Only the ones whose lamps were burning bright with that glowing oil. As they lifted them up, I could see they were being carried up into the clouds where there was this person waiting. I can't describe him properly. The light coming from him was so bright, but somehow it didn't hurt to look at. There was so much love coming from him, but also such holiness that I felt completely small and unworthy. I knew without anyone telling me that this was Jesus. Not the Jesus I'd learned about in school books, but the living Jesus. The people with the bright lamps were being welcomed into his presence. I could see the joy on their faces and hear their voices joining that amazing song from the universe. But then I noticed the others, the ones like me with dim or empty lamps. We were reaching up, crying out, trying to follow, but we couldn't rise up. We were stuck. I heard voices around me saying, "Lord, Lord, we believed, we went to our temples, we said our prayers, we followed all the rules." But there was no answer from above. Instead, I heard something that made my blood feel cold. The sound of gates closing. Not regular gates, but something much more final. The sound echoed like thunder, and I knew for sure that it was over for us. That's when I felt someone next to me. I turned and saw an angel, but this one wasn't lifting anyone up. His face was full of sadness as he looked at all of us with our empty lamps. "Why can't we go up?" I asked him. "I'm religious. I've lived a good life. I've tried to be good and follow the teachings." He looked at me with such kindness, but his words shook me deeply. The oil is his spirit. Without him, no person can rise up. I stared at my flickering lamp. "But I have oil," I said. "You have the oil of good deeds, of tradition, of trying hard by yourself," he replied gently. "But that oil burns out. The oil you need is the very Spirit of God living inside you. It's not something you earn or work for. It's something you receive as a gift." "How?" I whispered. "By giving everything to Jesus. Not adding him to your religion, but letting him become your whole life. The oil is not about what you do. It's about who lives inside you." As he spoke these words, I felt something breaking open inside my heart. All my religious practices, all my good intentions, all my trying to be worthy, they all felt like empty shells. Suddenly I realized I'd been trying to fill my lamp with my own understanding, my own goodness, my own version of being spiritual. But it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. I was back in my bed, but everything was different. I can't explain it properly. It was like waking up from seeing only black and white into seeing full color. The emptiness that had been eating at me for years was gone, replaced by this sense of being full and having someone with me. I knew Jesus was with me, not as a religious idea, but as a living reality. I got up and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked the same on the outside, but I knew something huge had changed on the inside. The oil, his spirit, was there now. I could feel it like a warm light in my chest. The first thing I did was call my mother. It was 3 a.m, but I couldn't wait. I tried to tell her about what happened to me, but she was worried I was having some kind of breakdown. To be honest, I understood why. If someone had told me this story a few days earlier, I would have suggested they see a doctor for their mind. But I couldn't deny what had happened to me. The panic attacks were gone. That crushing, empty feeling was gone. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly alive and truly at peace. I started reading the Bible, something I'd never done before. I was amazed at how much of it seemed to connect directly to what I'd experienced. The story of the 10 girls with their lamps, the teachings about being born again, about receiving the Holy Spirit, it all made sense now in a way that went beyond just understanding with my mind. I joined a small group of Christians in Mumbai. It wasn't easy. My family was confused and hurt. Some friends stayed away from me. There were people who said I was betraying my heritage, that I was being tricked by Western religion, but I knew what had happened to me was real. The oil in my lamp, Jesus' spirit living in me, that was undeniable. What I learned is that religion and having a relationship are two very different things. I'd had religion all my life, ceremonies, traditions, moral rules, but I'd never had a relationship. I'd never actually given my life to the living God and allowed His Spirit to live in me. The vision showed me that there are so many people from all religious backgrounds, including Christianity, who are trying to fill their lamps with everything except the oil that actually matters. We try good works, we try tradition, we try knowledge, we try spiritual practices, but without Jesus' Spirit actually living in us, changing us from the inside out, all of that burns out eventually. I'm not saying this to criticize anyone's faith or background. I'm saying this because I was shown something that I believe everyone needs to know. Being saved isn't about religion. It's about receiving the life of Jesus Himself. It's about being filled with His oil, His Spirit. The urgency I felt in that vision hasn't left me. Every day I meet people who are like I was. going through religious motions but empty inside. People from all faiths, including Christians who know about Jesus but don't actually know him personally, and I want to tell them all. There's oil available for your lamp. Real oil. The kind that never runs out. You don't have to stay empty. You don't have to wonder if you're good enough or religious enough. Jesus is offering you his Spirit, his very life right now, not because you've earned it, but because he loves you, not as something to add to your current beliefs, but as the foundation of everything. I know my story sounds impossible. I know it challenges a lot of ideas about how spiritual things work. But I also know that the change in my life is real. The peace, the purpose, the presence of God, it's all real and it's available to you too. The oil is his Spirit. Without him, no one can rise up. But with him, everything changes. Your lamp can burn bright, filled with the life of God himself. That's not just religious talk. That's the most practical, life-changing truth I've ever encountered. Don't wait until it's too late to discover what your lamp really needs. The oil is offered for free. You just have to be willing to receive it. Lois Fred's amazing experience reminds us that it's not religion, ceremonies, or even good works that prepare us for eternity. It's the oil of his Spirit, Jesus living inside us, that makes the difference when that day comes. So let me ask you, is your lamp burning with his oil? Or are you trying to fill it with your own effort, your own tradition, your own strength? Jesus' invitation is clear. Come to me and I will give you life. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more testimonies that open your eyes to the reality of eternity. Thanks for watching. Stay with us and you will never lack spiritual vision testimonies. Stay blessed.